Hi, this is Johan, back again with another video for you, another Nordic UFO story, and this is number 10, and the title of the story is The Valnesfjord Cases. This report tells us about the strange experience of a woman, she wants to be anonymous, who visited her daughter and son-in-law in KAsmo in Valnesfjord, a village about 40 kilometers east of Bodø, Nothern-Norway. She, and later also another woman, was the witness to mysterious events which happened during the night between Monday and Tuesday, September the 10th and 11th, 1979. We had a direct talk to Mrs. NN, who is a nursing auxiliary and aged about 50, and got the following report. As I am reading this, I will have this illustration up, so you can follow along the story and point out the different places and objects in her story. She had gone to sleep and it was about midnight when a powerful light beam suddenly came in through the window in the sleeping room outside. The weather was awful, with wind and rain. Because of this, the windows were closed, but the curtains were drawn apart and the ventilator at the top of the window was open. The house belongs to the Olsen family, and it is relatively new with a basement. The sleeping room in which Mrs. NN was sleeping was situated on the first floor. Mrs. NN got up and went to the window to see what was going on. Then she saw in the end of the beam, see the picture number 3 and number 8, a flame, and number 10, which reminded her of a welding flame. It was out in the dark in the direction of the garage, number 3, and the fuse box just above this. The flame was yellowish in the middle and grew reddish in the periphery, just like the flame tops in an ordinary fire. The beam, which appeared to have its origin from this object, and which had gone straight through the window, was greenish. She still could see the beam come out of the welding flame, but after she had heard a short uniform sound, the beam swept about and it seemed to her that the beam now came from the neighbor house, number 9. Or somewhere in the vicinity. Then it disappeared rather fast. The whole event lasted for about 10 to 15 seconds, and she didn't give it any further thought at the moment. It didn't occur to her that this could have something to do with UFOs. She went back to bed and fell asleep immediately. After having slept for some time, she woke up fresh and in form. Although with some murmur in her body. Her watch showed 5:30 in the morning, and she got up to wake up her son-in-law, who had to go to work. He got out of bed and made himself a cup of coffee, but he felt very tired. He took a look at his watch and discovered to his surprise that it was only 2:30. Therefore, they both got to bed, but Mrs. NN didn't tell anything about the event she had earlier that night. She fell asleep again and woke up at 7:30. According to her own watch. And she woke up her daughter. The daughter's watch showed 3:30. Then she told her about the experience around midnight. Later in the morning, they wanted to turn on the transistor radio in the kitchen, the room beside Mrs. NN's bedroom. But it didn't function. They didn't react to it at that point of time because they used the radio in the sitting room instead, which functioned quite normally. Mrs. NN wouldn't talk anymore about her experience. She was about to leave the same day and travel to her home in a town further south in the country. During her journey home, she felt this strange murmur in her body. Her watch didn't work normally until late on Thursday, September the 13th. Neither did the transistor radio, which didn't function as usual before later on Wednesday, September the 12th. After her mother had traveled home, Mrs. Aasen discovered a strange burning mark on the wall over Mrs. N.N.'s bed. The room is painted a light blue oil painting in a shingle wall. The burning mark looked after a personal expression like this. An unregular brown-yellow spot about 3 centimeters in diameter, coming up vertically from the mark were 2 feather-like stripes of soot about 10 centimeters long, weakly grayish. There were no blisters in the painting. It seemed as only the upper layer of paint was burned away, so that the priming remained. Mrs. N.N. was glad to hear that this thing had been discovered, because she herself didn't see the spot before she went home. Luckily, she hadn't dreamed it at all. She got more support to her experience when also the neighbor in the house, and this is number 2 on the painting, Mrs. Gunhild Andersen, about midnight had heard this humming sound, which lasted for only a few seconds. Gunhild Andersen should later in the midnight between September 19 and 20 experience a similar thing. Tell you more about it after finishing this story. Mrs. N.N., who herself claims that she believes in UFOs, didn't realize that she possibly had seen such a thing until she got to know that also other people had had experiences the same night in a house in the process of construction, number 6 on the drawing. The light had begun to pulsate widely about midnight and then disappear. When it appeared, it pulsated and got out again. It finally appeared and then it was constant. In house number 5 at the map, at Ottar Noring, an electric wall clock had stopped at 00.00. This clock was in the same state when they got up in the morning. The same thing happened in house number 7, about 2 kilometers as the crow flies from house number 1 at Connie Bringsli. Their electric clock had also stopped at 00.00 o'clock. In house number 4, a dog had begun to growl wildly about midnight. It was noticed that a power failure at the time was going on, but the electric clocks still didn't begin to work again after the return of the power. They didn't begin to function before rather late Tuesday, September 11th. In garage number 3 on the drawing, there was a tractor with a relatively new 12-volt battery. This was Tuesday 11th, completely gone flat. The Aasen family is quite concerned about which happened September the 11th, and this was reinforced when the neighbor Gunhild Andersen had her extraordinary experience in the night between September the 19th and the 20th. The night between Wednesday, September 19th and Tuesday, September 20th, 1979 is also a story with rain and wind. Gunhild Andersen has just gone to bed, but she can't sleep immediately. About 0:30, she discovers a bright light in the chimney through a ventilator in it. She observes that the chimney looks like being illuminated inside. The ventilator valve is about 30 degrees open, and she is situated in such a way that she is able to see into the chimney. Just after the internal illumination, a powerful light beam protrudes through the valve and out in the room. At the tip of it there is a yellow-red sphere at the size of an orange. The beam with the sphere rushes lightning swift to and fro before it withdraws swiftly into the chimney again and everything becomes dark. Gunhild Andersen gets flustered and cannot sleep for a long time. She crept well under her quilt, she tells. The whole incident lasted for some 7 to 8 seconds. She had noticed that just before the light had appeared in the chimney valve, she had felt a tingling in both of her shoulders, exactly as if they had grown numb, and the blood was beginning to rush towards them again. She could also tell that she, all the time before and after the episode, could hear the sheep outside in the rain. But when it all happened, it was completely quiet out there. The day after, rather late in the morning, she stood in the potato field and wanted to wipe away something she believed to be soil on her chin. Therefore, she wiped the chin thoroughly to remove it, but then she felt that it ached and that it was like a small knobs in her skin. Later, when she examined her face in the mirror, it looked like a burn. It was the size of a stamp. Sunday, September 23rd, I saw this mark by personal inspection, and it resembled a burn indeed. She has later consulted a doctor, and he ascertained that it was a wound due to a cold, in spite of the fact that she didn't have a cold at the time. She explained during the interview that she had seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Neither Mrs. NN nor Gunhild Andersen have had any similar experiences earlier. Wow, what a great story! Numerous of strange paranormal activity going on. Differences in time, clocks, the watches stopping at 12 o'clock, midnight. Very interesting. Light with an orb in front of it. Light beam with an orb. Very strange indeed. Coming through the chimney. Wow. Pretty interesting. And why should these ladies lie? It makes no sense. Why should they lie about this? Something really was going on. Numerous witnesses observed strange things. I think this is a real story. But what it was? It remains unexplained.